Right, so we are going to do this image here. This is what we're after. That's the done result, and this is looking at the grids. I'm going to just do this blue section. This green section, to be fair, the skills that are covered with this. This is the more complex one here. These ones here, this like doing this strip and that is going to be covered in this anyway. So I've just taken the hardest part. We're going to focus on that. And to be fair, I have made a separate video on doing a strip like this. It behaves differently. Well, actually, no, more this section here because of the resizing. So yeah, so we'll go in this, and this one here has got a bit of scroll in it. And so I'm going to show you how to do scroll inside a grid box, which is not as straightforward as you would think. So yeah, here goes. I have had a go at this, making this a couple times. This video would actually be my third go through it because, you know, so much fun. It's just thinking of what would be the best approach. It's going to be the less confusing. So let's have a look. Here we're going to do. We're going to do a style sheet, aren't we? So link relay equals style sheet href equals styles. Yep, that's all we need there. Okay. You could do your display grid on the body if you wish. I am not, mainly because in this image you can see how there's like this goes all the way to the edge, but then this grid doesn't. So the body would include obviously this part as well. So it means that we can break these up into different div classes that have their own grid layouts. And I mean, I'm going to have grids with grids. I'm going to go 3D because that's just how intense we're going to be. So this is very Inception. Let's give it a class, and we'll call it main. No, we'll call it top. We'll call it top. Oh, it's just disappeared. Right. Top. Right, so inside the top, before we get carried away, then let's have a look. So I've got one strip across, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really. I could group and say 1 strip, 2 strip, 3 strip, if I really wanted. But it just means that I can kind of I can have a little bit more control. It just depends on how much you want to kind of water these down, I guess. And then going across, obviously you got one large one that goes across, but we've got basically 1, 2, 3 divisions. This one's obviously twice the size of these two, so we'll cover that. So let's, before we start getting carried away, HTML dash family, because I'll set this up here. That is roughly the style that they've got on the page. I'll put a background color in for the whole website of grey, and then when I do dot top, right, display. That was the other one I was going to do. Okay, let's put display grid in first. Let's get rid of all our pre-done spacing. Dot margin. Sorry. Margin 0 pixels. Padding 0 pixels. So there's no pre-done spacing. List style none because we'll be using unordered lists. And text decoration none because none of our links will have underlines. Right. that covers that. So in terms of doing our top, let's just give this a background color of white smoke, which is basically just a grayish white, but mainly white. Okay, so display. So we go grid dash template columns. Well, it has 2 FR for the first one, that's wide, and then 1 FR and then 1 FR. This is basically saying out of these, if we chop the page into 4 bits, 2 of them would be on this side, and then these 2 would be on this side as well. But this is going to be 1 half, and then this is going to be 2 quarters, if you will. So there's your math. So 50%, 25%. But you can just write it as the FRs as a fraction, and I'll work it out because it's great. Because if I do 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR, I don't have to write 3.33 reoccurring and then worry about gaps and all that kind of jazz. This video probably will be done in parts, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we're going to go grid dash, what am I doing? Grid dash template rows. Now the rows vary in height. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are going to go repeat 5 comma, and I can write 1 FR, and I'll explain how this is not necessarily great to start with, but we'll get there. So this, if this becomes this becomes the minimum height, then it's going to really affect how the other ones work. I could give this a height of auto. So what it will do is it'll just fill to whatever each content is individually. That being said, if I leave it as, what was it, 5? Put 5 and then you put auto there, my bad. It'll do what, as I said before. But if I leave it as 1 FR, I can always tell the thing in there to align to the top, and then it will not fill the box as much as you want, which means I can come back and change this later if need be. I'm going to go grid dash gap. It's going to be a 5 pixel gap. Press the right thing. Right, and then I'm going to run this. Just displaying on another page. So all I've done is I've grabbed the address bar. I'll chuck it out of the way because I don't need that. And this one here. Right. Let's have a look at what we've got. So there's our top container. As you can see, there's nothing much in it. Turn the grid on, and it's all just in there. Because a height, the height of a fraction will be scaled based on other elements. But currently, there are no elements and we've got infinite scroll, so it just kind of does whatever. So if I go into, where am I going? I'm going here. Let's put something in here, eh? So let's have a look. What's the first thing in here? We've got, this is a whole unordered list of stuff in here. So let's just put a title in, shall we? And I'll put it in the second box. Right, so it is going to be an H1. I have to give it a class because I want this particular title to go in a particular place. So I'll just call it main, and I'll give it 2 classes. So it's got a title of main. Let's go this main title. So it's got a class of main title, and it's also a title Mind you, it's the only H1 on there, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, don't worry about that. Don't worry about being too overly tricky. We'll just give it one class. And what did it say? It said main story. Main story. Oh my goodness. Right. So in here, in this, we will go dot main story. No, we won't. Main title. It is going in, if we use this as a bit of a reference, one down. Let's have a look in here nightly and see if this. Not showing us the grid. Oh, that's lovely. Okay, well, it's going second one down. So this will be grid dash column, start at number 2, and grid dash row. Oh, that one starts at number 2. This one starts at number 1. Right. There you go. Got a main story. There we go. There's all our spacing. So as you can see, there's your dotted line, right? We can't see. Oh, I just turn that off for a sec. We can't see gaps physically in here. So if I was to do this, take the background color off the whole grid and just chuck it on one individual element, then you would see it around here. And so when I chuck the grid back on, you can see there's your gap and everything there. So it just depends on how you want to do things. I'm putting a border underneath my H1. So let's just do that for all the H1s quickly. Font dash size, I think 20 pixels sounds nice, and border dash bottom is going to be 2 pixels solid, and it's going to be dark red. Right. There you go. Now, if we look here, that way, the border doesn't quite go all the way, which is really annoying. So I'm gonna do the border all the way, rather than making things overly tricky. So I'm gonna do this, and I'm just obviously gonna have a wee bit of a space and just get this kind of styled roughly looking the same. So the font size is ish the same. Let's say margin dash bottom equals 5 pixels. Right, so it's done that but not attached to the line. Okay. We'll leave that out. We'll leave that out. Alright. Then what we want to do is we basically want this to shorten up. We don't want this filling the whole box. We actually only want it filling the box here. So this is where we can go like this. Justify is for your left and right. Justify content is for display flex. Just justify items is for grids, but this would be being put up here and says everything in the grid is going to be justify like aligned left or right. So if we bring this in, I have to show you. See, this is where we would say justify items, and they'd all start sitting to the left inside this grid section. They'd all be sitting on the left, and so they won't fill the whole box. But clearly, if we look at this, some stuff is filling the whole box, so we're not wanting everything to kind of just naturally do that. So rather than setting a big universal rule for everything, there's the option to say, oh, well, tell yourself to sit in a certain place. So we say justify self because we're talking on the thing. Otherwise, we'd be doing it up here on the place where we actually set the grid up. And we want it at the start, so we just write start. And so now if we go background and refresh, there you go, it's sitting there. And I might want this to move across potentially. Let's have a look at what it looks like here. Well, it's all in line with the edge, so I don't want to, but obviously my grid is sitting in a wee bit. So this is where we would go to our body, and go margin, I don't know, to view width, or you can just say like 20 pixels. It's not really huge, and that'll instantly, now if we look, you can see how the whole grid's squeezed in. Alright, so that whole grid there is all, as I highlight through it, is now squeezed in just that wee bit. So that's getting the grid kind of set up and start putting some content in. I'm going to do this in several parts just because this website, by the time you're finished, you'll be writing about between the two documents, and that is skipping this top section and just doing this middle section is going to be about 400 lines of probably code. So